June 1314. Scots versus English. The Scottish Highlands. 6,000 exhausted Scots. 20,000 English soldiers. The most feared military machine in Europe. Knights in full plate armour. Professional soldiers who had crushed rebellions from Wales to France. This was not a battle. This was an execution. Every military calculation said the Scots were finished. Except no one told Robert the Bruce. By sunset, 4,000 English soldiers would be dead. The most powerful army England assembled would cease to exist. The King of England would flee in disgrace, and a man who crowned himself king in a church, still stained with his rival's blood, would achieve what military science declared impossible. This is Bannockburn, and it changed everything. By 1314, Scotland was a corpse being picked over by English occupation forces. King Edward I, the hammer of the Scots, had systematically destroyed Scottish independence. Those who refused English rule were drawn and quartered, their body parts displayed across Scotland. William Wallace had tried to resist. He too ended up on the gallows, his body torn apart while still alive. His head mounted on London Bridge. The message was clear: resistance is death. But then Robert the Bruce entered the stage. In 1306, Bruce murdered his rival inside a church. Before the altar, the church excommunicated him immediately. Every Christian kingdom became his enemy. The English laughed. A king without land, without an army, without God's blessing. But Bruce did not give up. Year after year, he took back Scotland through guerrilla war, ambushes, night raids, attacks that vanished into the Highlands. He avoided open battles because English heavy cavalry had never been defeated by Scottish infantry. By 1314, he controlled almost all of Scotland. Almost only Stirling Castle still held out. Stirling was the key to Scotland. Whoever controlled it controlled the main route between the Highlands and the Lowlands. Bruce's brother, Edward, besieged Stirling for months. Then he struck a deal. If no English relief force arrived by June the 24th, the castle would surrender peacefully. It was the perfect trap. When King Edward II heard this, he had no choice. He could not allow Stirling to fall without a fight. It would signal that England could be defied. So he gathered 20,000 men, 2,100 heavy cavalry, knights in full plate armour, on massive war horses, 3,000 Welsh longbowmen, whose arrows could punch through chainmail, thousands of professional infantry. This was an army of annihilation. Robert the Bruce knew exactly what was coming, and unlike every Scottish commander before him, he did not panic. He chose where to fight with surgical precision. A narrow strip between the Bannockburn, a river with steep, muddy banks, and the dense forests of New Park. The ground looked like terrain where English cavalry could maneuver. It was not. The ground was soft, marshy. The approaches were narrow, funneling attackers into killing zones. Bruce's men dug thousands of small pits, each just deep enough to snap a horse's leg. They covered them with branches and grass, making them invisible. Then he trained his men in the Schiltron formation. Tight circles of men, each holding a 3-meter spear projecting outward like hedgehog quills. Against cavalry, it was devastating, but it only worked if the men held. If they stood when 2,000 armoured knights came thundering toward them. On the 23rd of June, the English arrived. What happened next became legend. An English knight named Henry de Bohun spotted Robert the Bruce riding ahead on a small horse armed only with a battle axe. De Bohun saw his moment. Kill the rebel king, end the war. He lowered his lance and charged, full gallop, full armour. The King of Scotland rode directly toward him. At the last moment, Bruce swerved aside. The warhorse could not turn. De Bohun thundered past. As he passed, Robert the Bruce brought his axe down with every ounce of strength. The blow split de Bohun's helmet in two, split his skull beneath it. Silence. Then the Scots roared. Their king had just killed one of England's finest knights in single combat. If Robert the Bruce could do that, they could do anything. That night, English commanders urged caution. The terrain favoured the Scots. They should withdraw. But King Edward II was impatient. He ordered the attack for dawn. It would prove catastrophic. On the 24th of June, the English army advanced. The heavy cavalry led, knights in full armour, lances levelled. They expected the Scots to break, to flee. The Scots did not flee. The Chilterns held. Absolutely, unbreakably. The first wave crashed into a forest of spears. Horses screamed. Knights fell, and once fallen in full armour, they could not rise. The weight of their protection became a prison. The knights behind could not stop. They rode straight into disaster. More horses stumbled into Bruce's hidden pits. Legs snapped. Scottish spears came down again and again. The English archers tried to flank, but the ground was too narrow. If they shot, they would hit English knights as often as Scots. Bruce sent his 500 light cavalry directly at the archers. Without protection from the heavy cavalry, stuck in the killing ground, the archers fled. Hour after hour, the English army was compressed onto a strip so narrow that only a fraction could fight. The heat was unbearable. Men collapsed from exhaustion. The dead piled so high that the living climbed over corpses. Still the Scots held. Then Bruce threw in his reserve, fresh troops who had not yet fought. At the same moment, movement appeared on the hill, what looked like another army. It was the Scottish baggage train. Servants, camp followers, women, and old men armed with sticks. But to exhausted English soldiers, they looked like reinforcements. It was the breaking point.